Hey, what's up, everybody? It's the Max35 here. And recently, the gaming industry has lost a legend. Tomonobu Itagaki passed away on October 16th, 2025. Now, if you're not familiar with who he is, he's known for creating the modern 3D Ninja Gaiden games with the likes of Ninja Gaiden Black on Xbox and Ninja Gaiden 2 on Xbox 360. And he was also the creator of the Dead or Alive franchise. Now, I can't speak to his works myself personally, as I haven't had the pleasure of owning or playing any of them. However, this may change. I've seen and known of these games for years, just never got around to playing them, which is kind of interesting as lately, before this even happened, I've actually been toying around with the idea of playing the 3D Ninja Gaiden games. They've always looked cool to me, and I know they're known for their difficulty, which I have been craving more challenging games these days. But anyway, like I said, I can't speak to his works myself as I haven't gotten around to playing them yet. So with this video, I decided that I wanted to talk about Itagaki-san as a creator slash developer. I've heard some funny stories about him here and there in the past, so I decided to look into some of his interviews and things, and I really liked how he went about game development and design. And honestly, I really dig his attitude about it all too. So I just wanted to talk a bit about that and why I respect him as a developer and a creator. From some of the research I did, Itagaki seemed like a man with a specific vision for the things he worked on and spared no expenses to get to his vision. And what I really like about him from some of the interviews I saw and from some of the things he said, I really like his game design philosophy, his attitude, and just how straight up he was. He wanted to do something and he did it, no matter what others said. Like, for example, one of his design philosophies I agree with is where he stated his love for the simplicity of inputs. He said that too many inputs would result in the loss of the gaming experience, and I actually like and agree with that, especially in regards to fighting games. That's one of the biggest turnoffs of fighting games to me, is ones that have either crazy long or complex inputs to do certain moves. I personally have never been too fond of this type of input system for fighting games because it's just a very complex series of buttons and or directions you gotta input to do certain moves. And it's hard to do that in the middle of a match when everything is going on. I mean, it's one thing to eventually do it in practice mode, but it's another to worry about landing it at the perfect time and opportunity in an actual match against a real person in the heat of all the fighting and all that. So I really agree with Itagaki on that one, and I'm glad he implemented that design philosophy into the DOA games. You don't have to essentially pre-dial in the input to do a special move or whatever. So I do like the idea of simpler inputs in fighting games. Another thing he said was that he didn't like implementing scenarios to show off technology just for the sake of it, which I find myself agreeing with. Now, me personally, I don't mind when games have scenarios that show off some technology. It can be cool if done in the right way, but just give it some substance and do more with it is all I ask, and I really incorporate that into the gameplay. What I also found myself liking about Itagaki was his frank and to the point personality about things. The man was not shy about telling people exactly what he thought or how he went about things. One of my favorites I found is from this interview with One Up where he talks about Ninja Gaiden. It goes something like this. The interviewer asks Itagaki if the other newer difficulty in Ninja Gaiden is an easy mode. Itagaki replies, "No, that's not quite right. The lowest difficulty will be called Ninja Dog. While it is a mode intended for casual gamers, it is not easy mode. Not being able to beat the game on normal means that you are a failure as a ninja, but not that you are a failure as a gamer, right? Ninja Dog is for those players." The interviewer then asks, "How does that affect your ranking at the end of each stage? And if you can get Master Ninja rank on Ninja Dog mode?" Itagaki goes, "That's nonsense. Impossible. How could a dog become a Master Ninja?" The interviewer then states how hard the game is and how hard other players found the game to be, and asks if the development team ever thought, well, maybe the average gamer isn't as good as we thought, so let's make it easy on them. Itagaki says, "That's right. In other words, there are some people who want to beat the game, even if it means being reduced to the level of a dog, people who are not afraid to shame themselves to accomplish their goals. Sometimes in life, that type of style is necessary. Anyone who can think like that and can still be a man. The Ninja Dog difficulty setting is for men like that, so don't give up too easily." This man Itagaki was not afraid to be a troll. This man was just blunt and yet trolly at the same time. And in this current era of gaming where every single game just needs to be as easy as possible so as many people as possible can beat it, where the slightest bit of challenge in a game causes pushback from the modern gaming audience, can you imagine if a game developer today came out here and said the same things Itagaki was saying in this interview? The outrage from game journalists and modern gamers would go off. It'd be crazy. Another thing I like and respect about Itagaki is that even when it came to the more spicy and provocative aspects of his games, he wasn't shy or afraid to put them into his work.
Well, I think entertainment needs sexuality and violence. So if entertainment lacks sexual elements, then it's entertainment no more.
That's, I think, what people associate with Dead or Alive, or these, kind of completely over-the-top girls that Itagaki really prides himself on creating these sort of amazing babes.
I'm creating entertainment rather than just a video game. So in terms of entertainment, it's quite natural for me to create beautiful women. It makes sense rather than bringing ugly women into the game. It's very simple. Naturally.
Now, with the current trajectory of modern gaming these days, when it comes to certain aspects, if this man was out here today saying these things, that outrage would be biblical. The sheer amount of articles that would be written would be stupid. Oh my God, this, that, and the third. And you know what? He wouldn't even care. The man would not care. This is his vision. This is how he wants his games to be made and what he wants his games to be known for. So that's what he's going to do. He doesn't let anyone or anything stop him from creating his desired vision for his works. And even back then, that was considered controversial, and he's gotten backlash for it too back then. And that was back in the 2000s. The 2000s. Now, could you imagine it today? And Itagaki seems like he always stood firm and defended his decisions when it comes to these kinds of things. He never let any criticisms or pushback hold him back or stop him from doing what he wanted to do with his work. And I just really admire, like, and respect that about him. In fact, I strongly believe we need more people like that in the gaming industry. People that have a specific vision or design choice for their game, and that's what they truly believe in and want for their game. So they stick to their principles and make that choice to stay with that vision that they made, despite, whatever type of pushback or criticism that might, come from those decisions. Especially these days where seemingly if you make anything that isn't the most inoffensive, easily digestible, mass consumption type of thing, then you'll receive a lot of pushback for it from, the likes of game journalists and more modern audience gamers. Another thing I learned about Itagaki was he took his game design very seriously. He would constantly play test his games and constantly tweak things to get them just right. He really cared about his work and put a lot of time into making sure everything was to his liking. And it's always good to hear when a designer cares and puts that much into his work. He was truly passionate about what he did. And he also constantly strives to create the best of the games in their genre. So he always strives to make, the best 3D action game, which some would say he did with, the 3D Ninja Gaiden, and some of the best fighting games, which you could say he did with DOA, or at least in terms of 3D fighters. And speaking of design, now I can't remember where I saw this at, but when I was looking up, stuff about Itagaki, I came across this. But apparently when he was working on Ninja Gaiden, he apparently would keep making the game harder and harder until the playtesters cried. Then he would turn the difficulty up just a bit more to make it perfect. Now, I don't know if that's actually true, but if it is, that's hilarious. Bless this man. Itagaki was an evil genius if he was really out here doing that. That's insane. Like, you wouldn't see a modern day AAA developer doing something like that. Like I said, imagine if there was a dev with this type of attitude out here today. Honestly, we need more of that, in my opinion. And then those you could say are the most controversial aspects of gaming today, if you think about it, is the likes of difficulty and spiciness of games. A game isn't supposed to be too challenging without like 1,000 different things in it to tone it down or make it easier. And then games can't have too spicy of content in certain aspects. And those two things are what Itagaki's games are mainly known for in terms of Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive. Like, imagine if he was putting out 2000s era Ninja Gaiden DOA games today. Boy, the game industry could not handle this man if he was as active and out here making games today as he was back then. His games would be giving people out here heart attacks at this point. Because when it came to the difficulty design and the spicer aspect to his games, he stuck to that vision no matter what. And I wish he could have been more active in the industry and was able to put more games out. I really wanted to see what he would come up with next. And kind of speaking to that, here's a fun fact. Some of the people that worked with him on Ninja Gaiden and DOA back in the day, they went on to make the game Wanted Dead, which is probably going to be the game you'll be seeing in the background of this video. And I love Wanted Dead. The game is challenging but a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed my time with it. And speaking of Wanted Dead, I believe the game Devil's Third was one of, or the last game Itagaki worked on. Now, I've seen a bit of Devil's Third and heard a bit about the game before, here and there and all that. And honestly, I never really paid too much attention to the game at the time. And it wasn't until I watched this video from Electric Underground where he talked about the game, and I learned that the game has some Wanted Dead DNA in it, because the same people that made, Wanted Dead, they did Devil's Third first, so a little bit of the Wanted Dead DNA is kind of in Devil's Third. And after playing and enjoying Wanted Dead, it really makes me think about, seeking out Devil's Third and playing it. But yeah, I just wanted to do this video talking a little bit about Itagaki. Just to kind of spur the moment, decided to make a video like this after hearing about the news of his passing. And it's really unfortunate. But basically what I've learned about Tomonobu Itagaki is that he was a man with a specific vision for his games, and he stuck to them no matter what others said or how much criticism he got. He wasn't afraid to make his games challenging and just saying, it's up to the player to overcome said challenges. And, he wasn't afraid to speak his mind and, tell it what it is. I've seen some of the other reviews. This man was not afraid to, levy criticisms at some pretty popular games out there and stuff. He liked and respected those games, but he was not afraid to, criticize those said games. So, he was really just straight to the point, was really honest and blunt, not afraid to be like that. And he also has such a level of confidence in his game design and his visions. And I just have a lot of respect for him as a game designer because of those things. And even if I didn't agree with everything he said, and there's some things that he said that I don't agree with him on or whatever, but I still respect him for the games that he has made. Even though, like I said, I haven't played them myself, I still respect those games that he has made and what those games have done for the game industry. Man was truly a rock star of a game developer, and even back then he was considered like a rock star game developer. So rest in peace, Mr. Tomonobu Itagaki. Oh yeah, and I'll also put a link to the episode of G4 Icons that features Dead or Alive. It's where I got those clips I used earlier from in this video. And check it out. It's a good episode if you want to know more about, Dead or Alive and stuff like that. And with that, I'm Stammer35 and I'm out. Peace. Please don't forget to leave a like on the video if you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment. Do you guys have any history or anything with either Ninja Gaiden or DOA? Is there a specific favorite DOA game or Ninja Gaiden game you guys liked? Or tell me your history with either games in the franchise or anything like that. And don't forget to leave a like on the video, and I'm out. Peace.